So the first basic question that I want to ask you, as not just as a critic or as like a normal cinema watcher, or uh, Jana Gana Mana definitely got the politics right, but what about the execution? Because as we were watching as well, we were sitting together in the theater. I was kind of trying to point out that the especially in the second half, in the back end of the film, a lot of things panned out very quickly. Uh, so, what did you feel about the execution of the whole thing? Like, was it the pressure of keeping people under the pump and be anticipated enough for the part two that they had to reveal a few things quickly, or for you it ended on the right note, on the right high?
I personally felt that the what do you say? The last, I agree with the comment of Arun here that the last 10 minutes I think were a little stretched. I feel probably you could have just hinted a little bit about part two and then gone ahead with it. But other than that, I feel that the second half, the pacing was much more brisk. I agree that it was a little fast paced as compared to the first half, which was a bit of a slow burn, to be honest. But I was quite satisfied with the product. Uh, Probably, I don't know whether the film would have ended. Whether it required a part two is another debatable story. Probably debatable topic. It can be polarizing opinions on that, and I did agree that once that ultimate case was over, you could have probably, just played a tongue in cheek with the audience and just wrapped it up within 2-3 minutes or even 5 minutes. That 15-minute extension was a little lagging. I feel you didn't need to give so many reference for what things to come in part two. So
I
it could
think
have
I
just
think
been a quick thing.
more than lagging, I think rushed is the right word, because it's so much of information one by one. Everybody had a flashback. Okay, so parallelly their screenplays were going on. So that, I'm not saying it was confusing in any which way, because if you are concentrated enough from the beginning of the film, and you are into the film with the subtitles, then you won't get confused with the end. But all I'm saying is that it was a little too much to register and to process at the end. So that was my only really takeaway at the end, like in terms of anything that I want to critique the film, or point out something negative. But otherwise, on the whole, uh, I was thoroughly entertained. We were thoroughly entertained because of its shock value. And so I watched Nona Prince's review, and he summed it up wonderfully. He said this was not a film; this was like a social experiment on the audience. Like, because you don't know what's being sold to you, because you are buying it. Okay, the first half is such that you are rooting for Suraj. Okay, you are completely in his favor, in his side, and you want him to do what he does at the halfway stage, and you are happy with the outcome. But then is the second half where you don't you don't question his moves, but you question yourself as well. That
I didn't.
so many things that Prithvi started pointing out about the country, about what's happening in the media and the system and everything, in regards to the people of the country. Everything sort of reverberated with us. That yes, we are also part of the problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember while we were watching, I think you were the one who had asked whether you couldn't understand really whether the character, and it was in the first half, by the way, that the character of Suraj, is he like a villain
Is
or a
he?
hero? What
Yeah,
is he?
yeah,
This is I'm not exactly quoting you, but this was something on the lines that you had asked me while
yeah,
the film was unfolding. So, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, even I remember asking you in the second half whether the character of Prithviraj, it was early on in the second half, and whether he is a villain or a hero, So that is, the victory of a director, the victory of a writer, to keep some cards to your chest and to unfold it in a very layered manner and
yeah.
absolutely changed the perspective as to how deep rooted the problem actually is, and it is not anything that just meets the eye or is sold to you. Even in daily life, it is that news or anything that you're consuming, it may not necessarily be the entire truth, because the truth requires a deeper study. And the news or the thing that is actually sexy and fast, you do not uh, want to, in fact, go into the realms of the reality or the truth in this case. So I think that was absolutely
Yeah,
on show here.
I think the film got into that zone of discrimination and biasness so beautifully. So in one scene, where he points out that okay, there's a woman who's dead who eloped with the lover. That's on the seventh or eighth or somewhere in the back pages with a small information. But so there's another woman. She's a teacher. She got murdered, and that's on the front page. And it's because of the profession they are involved in. You know. So that way, I think you kind of struggle to actually accept the fact whether you are in the right or wrong, because the people who are being questioned in that court, if you remember that woman rights commission, that lady and a few other people, so they were actually justifying the fact that yeah, it's of course it would be on front page because she was burnt and murdered and whatnot. And then the way Prithvi puts them in a pickle sort of situation, that how is her life more important than the other woman who
Correct.
eloped? It's another human. It's she has equal right to live as well, but she is also dead. Nobody's talking about her. This is more flashy because of not just the profession, but also these things you see a lot in general in media when there's a comparison between a fair skinned person and a dark skinned person. People are treated very differently.
So,
So yeah.
so basically, what I have come to the conclusion of is that all of us, whether it be politics or media or any other news or university, anything that is shown even in the film or in reality, we all have an agenda. Whether consciously or subconsciously, we all do have an agenda, and there is a thing that we follow. Anything other than that, we probably do not want to see that perspective. So
Yeah.
that is something that was cleverly shown here, that this was the entire truth. Even at the end, if you see that minor twist that was there after even the revelation, featuring the character of Suraj, I think that was also a clever twist, probably being a pawn of the system himself, and not exactly being as powerful as he thought he was at one point of time. So I think that was also a self-realization which prompted him to do certain things in the film. And yeah, so absolutely, this film is all about perspectives, and I mean, it is a brave film. It is a bold film, and knowing films that come from Malayalam cinema, which I would now want to call Indian cinema, I think they do not beat about the bush. They go all out, which is why I was a little upset with the film Naradan, which had a lot of potential, but it didn't go well. So coming back to this film, I think this again was pretty brave and bold, and with a clever and sharp sense of writing also, I would say.
See, last year we saw Kurudi. Okay. By the
Oh
way,
yeah,
Kurudi also is the most watched video on our channel yet. It's around 60,000. So when we did Kurudi, we were taken aback because see, for me it was my first year into Malayalam cinema, and last year I started. So Kurudi blew my mind away. But when I saw this seems to be like an even polished version of Kurudi. In terms of the social commentary or the political message that they are trying to give. And Prithvi is involved in both the projects, so he really seems to be flag bearer in these sort of social messages driven film, where something which is very relevant also. It's not just that that something which has not been there. It's, you can say it's a fictional film, but then the topics or the subjects that have been very delicately handled, they are so relevant in the country, because as a viewer in the theater sitting right there, we felt, okay, it is so true that whatever media tells us, we buy it, and we are made to believe in things. I'll quote a very interesting personal experience here. Just a day before we went for Jana Gana Mana, so I was sitting with this friend, and we were talking about Muslims and Pakistanis, and I was so shocked at the unawareness people have got these days because of what's being told to them through media. They just blindfoldedly believe in all those things, and they do their own research and all, and they just, okay, conveniently and comfortably sitting in their homes and ACs with their uh, uh, Instagram and whatnot, whatever is written, they just buy it. And I so wanted that friend of mine to watch Jana Gana Mana to understand that we all are a part of this big problem. So
Yeah,
in the in the comment section also, I would love for people to participate. Let's take a comment. Arun says, I was curious to watch this film because they didn't reveal anything much about the content or characters, but now I know more about the second part through the first film. That's disappointing. So that was my point, because
exactly.
those seeds had already been planted into us, in our minds, with the trailer, when we knew that there's a part 2 coming, and there were a few scenes from part 2, the flashbacks and the flash forwards. But so I can actually put out the example of Gangs of Wasseypur. Okay, that was also like shot together, and part 1 part 2 released within a couple of months. And so I think their approach was different in terms of how they wanted to present the part 1 and part 2, because a lot of characters were introduced in the part 2. They were based, the part 2 was based on the new characters, and while a couple of characters from part 1 stayed alive enough to get into part 2 as well. So yeah, you were saying something. Sorry, I had cut you in between.
No, so I was saying that I totally agree with the unawareness that is there, the falseness that has been spread. That is, I think, on another level wrong. And I would also like to point out that you talked about the film Kuruti. I have two more examples in the Malayalam Malayalam film space. That one from last year is Nayattu, which I think was on your channel. I think I have been typecast now that it is one of my favorite films from 2021. And the other Malayalam film that I would like to mention here is the Malayalam film Pada, which released this year, which is on Prime. I think that for me was really one of the finest films of 2022 yet. And again, a film that exposes the establishment and the system. And I'm just envious as to why other industries cannot show some spine and push the envelope that little bit. You cannot. And one thing I was talking about the same on my channel as well, on my in my review as well as in my YouTube channel, that this Bollywood might just about end up making a remake of this. I mean, and it would be a diluted one if they attempt it. It would be an absolute diluted one. They should not attempt it only. In fact.
See, you told me that day as well, and I would disagree. I don't think Bollywood has balls to make something
Yeah,
like this. I mean, even a diluted version, because see, it kind of proves the one of the points raised in the film, because the film raises all these uncomfortable debates about how you, if you raise a question, you are branded, or you are tagged as anti-national or something. So just imagine somebody making this kind of a film in Bollywood, and then they also getting branded or tagged as anti-nationals, isn't it? I mean, when Mulk was made, you remember how many people had targeted Anubhav Sinha,
yeah,
even when
yeah.
Article
Absolutely.
15 was made.
Article.
But that guy has balls. But I don't think even he has the balls to go to this extent of making as raw as Kerala did. Other than Kerala, I don't think any other state has that sort of guts to go all out.
I
And
think
also one of the reasons is because Kerala isn't right now being ruled by the same governing party which is in the power in center.
I think I would like to quote Anurag Kashyap here. I think I had watched his interview from the Kerala Film Festival, which happened a while back this year. And he was that I am actually envious of Kamal, who's the director of Pada. At that point, Pada was screened in the Kerala International Film Festival. And he said, I'm envious of Pada for actually envious of Kamal for making Pada the way he wanted to, because that is something I will not be able to make in Bollywood, considering the other factors that are there.
Yeah.
So I think that sums it up perfectly. The amount of hindrance that they may get while making the film, even if it is made probably with censorship. You know how it is. So I mean, to each his own. I mean, we are not passing any political judgment here, but I feel that art and films, is a little should be a little separate from anything else, and they should have the freedom.
Yeah, that's why. See, these are so important conversations. That was one of the reasons why I wanted it to be a live stream so that people would participate with us and give their own two cents on the topic. So we went to watch Jana Gana Mana in theater with another friend. Okay, so he says a very he makes a very good point when so I remember his words. He says it's just that since 2014 whatever was in people's heart, it has now become a dinner table conversation. I really agree with his point there because this film is what makes all those uncomfortable questions that have been there for so long amplify that. But those questions are going to get raised because of the problem that has been there for 8 years, right? Before that, even though if people had those sort of sentiments against each other, they were not getting amplified. But as our friend puts it out, uh, the ruling party, or the ideology of the ruling party has enabled those people who were not able to do anything about it. They've enabled those people to actually do something about it so that they get their votes and remain in power further.
I would also tend to agree with that, and I would say that since we are talking on this topic, I feel that it is okay to have an opinion. You can have any opinion that you like, but to try and impose your opinion on others, that is wrong, I feel. And
Yeah.
to have a perspective or to have a difference of opinion, like how Arun is saying here, that I disagree with Farad, I'm fine with that. I'm happy. It's giving me a perspective. It's giving me a different idea about how things can be. And that is the thing. You cannot stop asking questions, right? It's as simple as that. You may fight about your opinion. That is fine. Your opinion is valuable. My opinion is also valuable. And
Yeah.
if we do not agree, we tend to disagree, and we agree to disagree. That is fine. But to actually go ahead and to create violence because of that, or even on social media, I feel I see so many comments. That is not required. So I think that is what my take is. It's okay to agree to disagree. That is
And
fine.
I think that's where this film scores, because this film is not left based or right based or center based. This film questions everybody. This film is not celebrating those students who were protesting. This film is not celebrating the police or the judicial system or anyone. They're raising questions on everybody's thought process, that you should have you should do your research. You should not just blindfoldedly buy anything the hell
No,
the media tells you. Like
exactly.
how we were talking that day about so this channel called Sudarshan News, where this lady, that reporter goes to a Haldiram outlet, and they just want to sensationalize any little thing that they can. So they were arguing why the Haldiram packet has something written in Urdu or apparently Arabic on it, because she can't read it. You know, so all these things are being sold to us in such a way, and not to forget the WhatsApp University. How it has the IT cell, and the WhatsApp University has played such a huge role in spreading this fake propaganda, and literally brainwashing a lot of vulnerable people.
I think you're going to get us arrested now, for saying all that openly on a YouTube stream.
No, that's
So,
okay.
I mean, coming back to the film, I feel that, again, the film does focus on all that what Keshav was saying in a very smart manner. I think the writing is very smart, very subtle. And as you rightly said, Keshav, I think I agree with you there that, it did not take sides in the film. It did not take the sides of the university or the cops or the politician or the lawyer for that matter. It was a very neutral perspective which actually led to the truth, which is, I think,
Mhm.
the writer needs to be applauded here, for keeping things subtle. And I disagree with the review that I'd read. I don't know whether it was Indian Express or some review I had read, which said that the second half was preachy. I overwhelmingly disagree with that. That it wasn't preachy
Yeah,
at all. It
it
wasn't at
wasn't.
all. In
I
fact, it
think.
was
I
very
think.
subtle. It was very subtle.
See, courtroom dramas can tend to get preachy. Like I remember Pink. Pink was very preachy in the second half, especially.
I think
So
Mulk was also.
Mulk was preachy as well. But this film like found the right balance between being preachy and being subtle. So and I think that also reflects in Prithvi's performance because that was kind of a character in the role written where he could have easily got a bit more louder and he could have become preachier, but that sweet spot he found in between, I think that tells a lot about a great actor. Somebody also commented, I saw some comment where they were saying, after this film also, if Prithvi is not seen as in the same light as any of the greats of Indian
Pan
cinema,
industry.
what else does he have to do? I mean, he deserves so much more than just what he gets right now, because not only because of the performances that he puts across, but also the kind of films he's choosing.
Yeah,
Be it
absolutely.
this one or the Kurudi, and I'm sure Jana Gana Mana 2 will also have a lot of uncomfortable questions being raised in that as well. So I think I really love how he picks his movies and chooses the topics on which film to get involved in. I think he's also the producer of the film.
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, so I mean, for somebody to put his money into something like this, that also speaks volume. So speaking of Prithvi, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the performances. It's, I think it's very difficult to pick the sole winner of the film in terms of performances, because Suraj was equally effective and impactful. And it's such a great curve in his career. Somebody who was just labeled as a comedy actor or something like that, and look at the kind of performances and the films he's doing right now. So for him to be able to do this, I think both of them really fed off each other's energies. We have seen them already in Driving License before. So what was like any favorite scene that comes to your mind for both of them?
Um, the favorite scene, one of the favorite scenes would be, of the encounter. I think that was very
Hmm.
impactful for me, and the way it was shot, with uncomfortable close-ups that were there, and it made you a bystander in that, and
Yeah.
probably a way of saying that you are a part of that thing that is being carried out, in a way like that. So that was one of the scenes that stood out. I think Prithviraj and his courtroom scenes were absolutely superb. And that counters that he gives was brilliant. That was really a standout. I think even the other performances, like Vinci and Dhanya and Mamta Mohandas, or even Vaishnavi, or Sherry, all of them, I think, did a fabulous job. I mean, they all contributed in their own way, and they were magnificent, all of them.
Hmm.
Suraj, of course, was very well restrained. I feel almost his character was such that it wasn't very expressive, yet he was bottling up many things inside him until he realized that he was also a part of the mess that was created.
Yeah,
Basically,
and finally, it was good to see that his conscience also wanted to get cleared off, because he goes right that I want to at least sleep one night peacefully.
correct.
So that was, and so Dark North had put this in the comment section. In matters of conscience, the law of majority has no place, which was, which we see at when Prithvi is walking, that over the
The
shoulder
courtroom scene,
shot.
yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
so I think that is such a well 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 used statement in the context of the film.
Correct.
It made so much sense there. Uh, there's another comment. It says, I think the last time I saw such a polarizing character intro for a lawyer, it was Akshay Khanna in Section 375. Have you seen that film?
Yes, I have. I have seen that film, and again, the complaint that I had with that film was that the ending, I was a little. I wanted the ending to be something like play tongue in cheek with the audience, just to give little hint about it and not serve it in a platter, something like an andhadhun. Did she
Okay.
not? Something like that. But again, yeah, I agree with what the statement was, that the opinions were polarized in that film as well, and it was going another direction, and it changed at the end, but it was a little simplified for the Indian audience.
So Arun says film talks about classism, casteism, and discrimination, but here the lead female character is shown in a bright filter backgrounds where negative characters dark shade. You see irony, don't you? Of course, and that is one of the reasons why she was also highlighted in the front page. As I said, in India especially, how fair-skinned people are prioritized over dark-skinned people. Like a dark-skinned criminal would be looked in a much more worse way than, and I think that also prevails all over the world. Like if you remember, okay, I don't know how many people here know about this serial killer called Ted Bundy. So I'm a huge serial killer documentary fan. So Ted Bundy was like a this white all American elite guy. Okay, he was he had apparently killed over 30 women, and he was a sex murderer. So the judge, while even giving the final verdict that he is going to get the electric chair, and he's guilty and all, even at that point of time, since this guy is white, and he's fighting his own case because he has studied law, so the lawyer goes that I would have loved for you to practice in front of me. You could have had a great career if you had not chosen this path, and he says, I have no animosity between both of us. I can guarantee you that even this is in 70s. So even in America, if this was a black guy who had committed these kind of murders, I can write you in that the judge would not have said all these things to a black guy. Okay, so these things have prevailed over the years throughout the world. So that's why I think the way they portrayed Mamta Mohandas's character, the white filter and everything, it made sense. Uh, Dark North says, also I gotta say the death of the fourth man was spine chilling, of course.
Of
And
course, it was. Yeah.
not just his death, but also, if you remember the scene in the first half where they're sitting in the jail and Suraj is actually interrogating them. I mean, in that scene as well, their expressions, without showing any sort of guilt, because at that time we were sold, right, that they had committed all those things. We were actually believing in that. So to be able to pull that off, that expression and the way they reacted in that scene, even that was spine chilling.
Yeah, and
But
we
yeah,
were actually we were like rooting for him, weren't you, when
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
encounter
Of
happened for
course,
the first time?
of
We thought
course,
that, oh, this is the way the justice should be done, like
and
we also were
and
swayed.
and that's not just the film. That happens in real life as well in India.
Yeah, yeah,
Everywhere,
yeah.
people want to enjoy these kind of encounters where
Which
they
is
just
why
take a
news is
side.
sexy, right? It is not the truth,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we have covered most of the stuff. If you have anything more to say, please put in the
Keshav, you can
comments.
take this last comment by Arun. I think that made some sense as well.
So even the makers prefer white female actors for a film which talks about such kind of politics. No, see, they have to show what's happening in the country or what's happening in the society, right? So for that, they have to pick the white female actors, right? Because
I
that's how
think
it
he's talking
happens.
about other industries as well, where the actor is just there for the sake of being there. I think he's referring to
That's
that.
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, in general, if he's talking about that, like, then I completely agree because mostly like if you and this is like I'm talking about Telugu and Tamil mostly, not Kerala. That so many North Indian actresses are cast opposite the local actors, right? Just because of their fair skin. There are so many examples. There is Rashi Khanna, there is Tamanna Bhatia, and there is Hansika
Sakshi Khanna also.
yeah, I mean, so many examples are there. So Arun is right, bang on money. And also, guys, 22 people are watching us right now, and only 13 likes are there. I can see. So I think this film, if not us, this film deserves a bit more support from you all. It's been a year, and I promise that from here on we'll be a bit more active on the channel, and we would love for you also to be a little bit more interactive with us in the comment section, and with the like button and everything, because that only help us drive the channel even further. And yeah, so we have got to around 4,500 subscribers in a year, which is pretty cool. I hadn't expected to go anywhere near that, but it happened because of your support, and uh, also because how much we love Malayalam cinema in general. I think Malayalam cinema and Malayalam audience was probably the biggest factor in wherever we have reached in our journey. And I really hope in this second year now, we also branch out to other languages and other industries where some great films are also made. So thank you guys for supporting for a year, and looking forward to another fruitful year with you all. And thank you, Farhad. Please go to Farhad's channel, Popcorn Reviews, his website as well, where he has made a new record of giving half star to a film called Hero Panti, which also released at the same time. Never in his life ever he had given half star to a film, but he ended up doing that as well. Okay, Joel Phillips says, "How was your theater experience?" I think that's a good question to end the phase with.
Amazing. It was amazing. And I was a little excited. And I remember Keshav telling me that I am like, he was very excited during the day. He felt that this kind of excitement I've felt after a very long time for going for a film. And I was also very excited considering that I had many questions in my head that will I be able to keep up pace with the subtitles, and will I be able to understand the drama? There were many questions, because normally we are at a comfort on in our homes, and watching stuff and following subtitles very quickly on our small screens or our laptops. But big screen is another experience. You cannot pause and go back if you've not understood something. So, and one thing I think Keshav and we will also agree that there was no chit chatter, which we really enjoyed in this film because the
Yeah.
focus was on the subtitles.
No, that's
So,
there. I think we were in the very little minority who was actually non-Malayalam, non-Malayali speaking, and that's why we had to focus more on subtitles. But what it also reflects is if the film will be intelligent, and the content will be worthy enough to be focused upon, and not to do chit chats or all the hooting and all those unwanted things, then people, I think that also reflects in the kind of audience then you will have for the kind of cinema you make, right? You can't, when we went when I went for RRR, or when you would have gone for KGF. I mean, uh, I highly doubt that people would have been silent for even a minute in between. But here, I think even before we went to watch the film, this was kind of a given or expected that here the content will be a bit more intelligent, and your own intellect will be a challenge, and you will have to be very attentive right from the word go. So this was that kind of experience. Kind of reminded me when I, for the very first time, watched any other foreign language film in theater with subtitles. So it was Parasite 3 years ago when I went for that. So until that, also I also had these sort of doubts. Okay, how do people enjoy films with subtitles? Because half the time, whether they would read the subtitles or they'll focus on what's happening on the screen. But once I got through that barrier of two in subtitles, as the Parasite director also said in the Oscar. So I think this was very similar experience, because for the last 1 year on OTT, we had been so used to watching Malayalam films with subtitles. So this ended up like a cakewalk.
I just wanted to make one point though, that if any of the distributors or exhibitors are watching this video, happen to watch this video, then we need more screens with subtitles. I think if
Yeah,
you're releasing a film in a, a non-Malayalam speaking area, then I think it makes better sense to, make all screens with English subtitles. And here there were barely
yeah,
two shows. I think during the day we happened to catch one of them. So I think this is one complaint that I have,
yeah.
for things to improve. I don't know whether it costs you with subtitles as well. It has a different print. I don't know if it's a cost attached to it, but it would be helpful if we have more such screens having English subtitles for all films. Like Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, any film that is not uh, for familiar with the language. Basically.
Yeah, well, so all in all, our theater experience of watching our first Malayalam film and also meeting for the first time, it was a great experience. Something we won't really forget because first time is always special. And for us who have been so big Malayalam cinema fan for such a long time, to experience it in a theater. Not to, we didn't even mention Jake's Bejoy's music. I mean, in that also was
Oh,
such an important element, and also because we watched it in Dolby Atmos, so it made even more impact throughout. So yeah, great experience, and couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate the 1 year of all things cinema with you all as well. Yes, Joel, as I said, Jake's Bejoy's music was one of the highlights. Absolutely, I agree with that. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining us in this amazing discussion about this amazing film. As I as I've written in the title as well, the most important relevant film of the year so far. And let's hope if part two comes the same year in 2022 as well, then it'll only continue from where this one has left us, and we are let's hope we are in for more sort of shocks and stuff like that. So thank you again for watching. We'll be back soon with another video. I think CBI 5 is also coming very soon, so we'll probably get back together for that. Thank you. And if you have anything in the comments, if you have any requests you want us to do, then please put it in the comment section. Uh, Press the like button and the bell icon. You know all the jazz. You know the drill.